Animal Farm by George Orwell. So this book was copyright 1945, and I have this Signet Classic edition that was printed in like 1962. And I've read this book 3 times now. I read this in high school. I'm sure a lot of people got assigned this in high school. And then I read it again like in my early 30s. And now as I'm approaching 50, this is my 3rd time reading it. Now, a lot of people know that Orwell, when he wrote this book, he was really talking a lot and criticizing and going over a lot of the issues during the Russian Revolution of, I believe it was like 1917. And I don't know a lot about that time in our history. There's other channels where you can go on or other videos, and people will really break down all the different characters that are in this story, the animal characters, the human characters, the neighboring farms, and how they represent real life people, real life countries, all of that, and how Orwell really wrote that into the story. But what's so great about this book is that you don't really have to know a lot about that time period. A lot of these themes that he's going over in this book are kind of, unfortunately, timeless themes. And you can read this as a young adult. You can read this in your midlife and later in life. I think there's always something you can get out of this book. You can see it from a different angle as your life experience grows. And it's so far survived the test of time. This book was written about 80 years ago, and I think there's always some parallels to what's going on in our current society, that this thing still stays relevant. So it's really an amazing book. It's only 120 some pages long. I read this in one day. I read half of it in the morning, half before bed. It was a very easy read. I think if you watch this channel, I'm sure you've read it. If you haven't, you should go out and find this book. It's definitely a classic. I really wouldn't call this science fiction. It's definitely a dystopian fiction story. We do have talking animals, so I guess there's maybe that as our science fiction element. But even if you haven't read this one in a while, I kind of urge you to. It's a very easy read, and just be interested to hear what you pull out of this book on a reread. There's all kinds of themes about the dangers of authority and, all these different things that are very blatant in this book. And there's other things that you could pick out through time. On my 3rd time through, some of the things that really stood out for me was how misinformation can be dealt out, and how if a leader says it with enough confidence, that people will kind of go along with it. So it's one of those things, each time you read it, you can find new little things as your life experience grows. So, I don't want to talk too much about this one. It's just one of those classics I think everyone probably has already read or should read again. But that's about it for this video. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next video.